Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Princeton, where in our open and welcoming community, we live our message of hope, love, justice, and joy. Whether you're joining us online or in Channing Hall, we are glad to be together. And we extend a special welcome to our visitors this morning. We invite you to stop by our welcome table in Robinson Lounge after the service so we can answer any questions and begin to get to know you. Again, welcome all to our congregation. We're very happy that you're here. It's September, and we wonderfully, in September, have many activities going on. So as we launch our upcoming congregational year, there are a few I'd like to highlight. You will find almost all of them here in your bulletin as well. First, after service today, we are having a children and youth ministry open house for parents, caregivers, and others that might be interested in what we are going to be doing in the upcoming year, as well as our overall philosophy in our work with our children and youth. It's going to begin at 12:15 in the Foz Theater, and for those who are in need of childcare, there are some that have already let us know that we do have probably another handful or so open spots. Please, that's going to be in the lower level lounge, so drop by your children to the lower level lounge for childcare and then join us in Foz Theater. Also wanted to share that our pastoral ministry is bringing back together an in-person grief and loss support group. They are on the third Tuesday evenings of the month, starting at 7 p.m. That's going to be then this coming Tuesday, September the 17th. If you are interested in learning more, you can be in touch with me. Next Sunday, September 22nd, we celebrate what is the ceremonial start of our congregation year with our annual all-ages water communion. You are invited to best remember to bring water with you from your home or from any travels you might have had to merge with all the other waters that others will be bringing with them. But don't worry if you forget, we will have water here for you as well. Before service next Sunday, those that are interested in planning a men's group will be meeting at 9:30 a.m. And also next Sunday, after the worship service, after our water service, is a green burial update. In 2019, members of our congregation voted to accept a major gift in pursuit of the development of a green burial or natural burial site in the area. And the members of that advisory group want to be able to share back with you how that is going and answer your questions. So men's group planning before service at 9:30, green burial after at 1 p.m. I'm thinking through in this moment all the things that are happening even this week, and that I'm sure the folks that are doing the Harvest Barn Dance, which is this coming Friday the 20th, would also want me to remind you to please sign up for that. And we do want to share again the invitation for Alice Harper's memorial service at 2 p.m. today. That's happening where she was residing in Maine. There's a Zoom link that's been sent out in your email. You could also gather here if you'd like to view that together at 2 p.m. in the Foz Theater. And now let us center ourselves here within our spiritual community, whether we are present in Channing Hall or joining on Zoom. Our lives and days unfold without sureness. We are born and come into this world with no roadmap of what we will be when we grow up, of what comes next in our journey. And that can at times feel frightening or freeing, or maybe both at once. With this natural uncertainty, how is it we know how our actions and words affect another? If we've made a difference, and if so, what kind of difference? Where do we find markers of positive change? Gathered within this community of spirit and heart and mind, may we be reminded how deeply we matter, of how much we are capable, of how loved we are. May we know in this hour with certainty the miracle we are in our being. Even in times when we may feel broken, may we too know that we are blessed.
May the light we now kindle inspire us to use our powers to heal and not to harm, to help and not to hinder, to bless and not to curse, to serve you, Spirit of freedom.
And let us be cognizant of a special focus of our gathering today, knowing that it is our duty to make our voices heard. Recently, the Racial Justice Ministry of this congregation, in order to think about and concern ourselves with what we should be doing related to racism, brought Karen Gaffney to speak and bring her treasure of a book, Dismantling the Racism Machine. Earlier in last century, James Baldwin, in his books, called this machine the lie, and asked himself what it was his responsibility to do as a writer. So we today can ask ourselves, what is our responsibility as Unitarian Universalists? What are we called to do? As this service unfolds, there will be, hopefully we'll be inspired in the many kinds of actions that can be taken. And in the words of Bayard Rustin, a leading organizer of marches and actions regarding peace and racial justice, he said, quote, "We need in every community a group of angelic troublemakers," unquote. Will you be one of them? We have some things both in the service for inspiration and after the service, and things that you may take home in order to gather your family, your friends, your neighbors, any collaborators that will take action, positive action, good troublemaking that can enable the positive to come out of our society. And we ask you to spread this with your family, your friends, your companions, and may we do all this in the spirit of our 8th principle and in fostering the beloved community.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I am here to talk to you about Chalice Circle today. And before I begin, I tried my best to be the voice of my group. A lot of the words that I'm going to use come directly from the wonderful people I've been sharing this experience with. The general inability to make sense is all mine, though. Making new friends is hard. And when I do, I constantly fight the urge to people please. When a friend shares a problem, I struggle to not jump in and try to solve it. It's hard to share my own problems when I expect that friends want them to be solved. Chalice Circle is the perfect place for me to grow. I am in Linda Benson's Monday night Zoom circle, and we meet once a month to talk about the same spiritual theme that we hear about in here. Linda brings relevant quotes and questions, and we share freely what's on our mind, because we trust that we will be heard fully, without interruptions, without questions, and most importantly, without worrying about people reacting to what we're saying. Instead of consoling each other or trying to resolve an issue, we just hold space for one another. And when we do that, I can just be myself and tell my story vulnerably. I know I won't feel judged or pressured, and that fosters a kind of intimacy between us that is hard for me to get anywhere else. I also get to really hear other people. And instead of trying to fix, I get to help create a safe space for them. Making connections is hard, but in Chalice Circle, we all learn to speak from our hearts. I get to practice the love and empathy that makes me a better person. And I get to really hear the stories of people I would have never met otherwise. It's really special. Come and join us. You can sign up in Robinson Lounge right in there after service, or there's a handy little QR code inside your order service.
Let us enter into a space of quiet reflection where we can connect with our deepest selves and the shared spirit of our community. Close your eyes if you feel comfortable and take a deep breath in. Feel the air filling your lungs, and as you exhale, release any tension you may be holding. Breathe in peace and breathe out anything that distracts you from this moment. As we gather here, let us reflect on the truth that we are all interconnected. The pain of one is the pain of all, and the liberation of one is the liberation of all. In this interconnectedness, we are called to confront the reality of racial injustice in our world. Imagine for a moment a world where every person is valued equally, where no one is judged or diminished because of the color of their skin, where diversity is celebrated as a strength rather than feared as a threat. Hold this vision in your heart. Now let us turn our attention inward. Ask yourself, what does racial justice mean to me? How have I been called to be part of this struggle? What fears, doubts, or resistances do I need to release in order to fully engage in the work of justice? As you breathe, let these questions settle within you. Simply allow the thoughts and feelings that arise to be present, acknowledging them with compassion. In this quiet space, let us also hold in our hearts those who are directly impacted by racial injustice. Think of those who suffer from discrimination, who live in fear of violence, who are denied opportunities because of the color of their skin. Send them your thoughts of strength, love, and solidarity. As we slowly return to the present moment, let us carry with us a renewed commitment to the journey ahead. May our hearts be open, our minds clear, and our spirits resolute in the pursuit of justice for all. When you are ready, gently open your eyes and take another deep breath, grounding yourself in this shared commitment to creating a world where everyone is free.
Thank you. Ted Fetter wasn't able to be with us in person this morning, but he did send along his homily and asked that I would share it with you. I've known Ted and have been doing racial justice work with him long before I came to serve this congregation. It's a privilege to be able to share these words with you, and I will try to deliver them with the meaning and great love and passion I know Ted has. W.E.B. Du Bois was a towering African-American leader from the 1890s through the 1940s. One of his many achievements was to be the editor of the NAACP magazine, The Crisis, for many years, and then the NAACP was without doubt the strongest and most radically progressive organization for racial justice. In January of 1920, Du Bois published an essay in the crisis called Brothers Come North. In this essay, he urged African Americans in the South to come north. It would be no panacea, Du Bois assured his readers, and there would still be discrimination and hate. But at least for Du Bois, the migrants to the north would have a chance. They could get a decent job, they could register to vote, and maybe even run for office. And that, for Du Bois, was a great opportunity. They might join the school board or the city council, and in Du Bois' view, that would lay a bit of groundwork for African Americans to become accepted as part of their new society. Let me assure you that he admitted in this essay that the road to such acceptance would be very difficult, with many setbacks before a few modest successes. But he held out the hope, and that's what I want to share with you this morning. If you stretch yourselves, if you're able to take up a challenge, you can make a difference for yourself and your community. I want to talk about two leaders who have spent their lives walking into trouble and who have accomplished great things. The first is Congressman John Lewis, and the second is Sister Simone Campbell, the leader of the Catholic Progressive Lobby Group Network and of the Nuns on the Bus, Nuns, N-U-N-S, on the bus. Here's a bit about John Lewis. He was born in pretty much the most rural part of Alabama, one of 10 children living on a sharecropping farm. And though later his parents were able to buy some land, he was painfully shy and he had a speech impediment, so he had few friends and learned to be by himself. He was too lazy to do the hardest farm work, so he became responsible for the chickens. He yearned to be a preacher in his Baptist faith because that was the ultimate in respect and admiration in the community that he could imagine. So he practiced by preaching to the chickens, telling them about salvation and urging them to be kind. When one of them died, he would hold a funeral and deliver an eulogy for the chicken, and then bury the bird in the chicken cemetery he set up. At the age of 17, he was able to enroll at American Baptist College in Nashville, where the cost was $25 per semester. American Baptist was unaccredited, but had excellent faculty. Even better, Nashville had other African American colleges and universities like Fisk and Tennessee A&I and Meharry. He was lucky that a professor at Fisk was inviting students from all these schools to enroll in a nonviolence workshop using the principles of Gandhi, and Lewis became a key member of the workshop, still shy, but strong and determined. His experiences were vital. He became less focused on studying the Gospels and more determined to make a difference in the lives of his people. In 1960, his activist career began. With several other students, he sat down at segregated lunch counters in Nashville and tried to order something. He was refused, of course, and asked to move, but he stayed. He was eventually arrested, and we have to think about what this meant to young John. He was raised to stay out of trouble and certainly to avoid any encounter with police. He said later that at the time of his first arrest, he felt only fear. But during the experience of fingerprinting and booking, he felt a burden lifting. He knew he had done the right thing. He was not alone. He had the support of other students. At Christmas time that year, he and his best friend, Bernard Lafayette, went home by bus from Nashville to rural Alabama. Earlier that year, the U.S. Supreme Court had ruled in Boynton versus Virginia that it was unconstitutional to force segregation on interstate buses. Lafayette and Lewis boarded the bus and quietly ignored the request to move to the back of the bus. The driver went into the bus station and conferred, and then at every stop along the way, the driver again went into the bus station and then returned. Lewis and Lafayette were sure that the driver was tipping off Klan members about these uppity young passengers. So when Lewis got off the bus at his first rural stop alone and in the middle of the night, he was very fearful. But in a few minutes, his parents arrived to take him home. He had called ahead to tell them of his plans, and he was able to get safely home. Shortly afterwards, Lewis joined the Freedom Riders, organized by the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, or SNCC. He was one of 9 who rode a bus from Nashville to Birmingham. Soon, Sheriff Bull Connor, himself of Birmingham, got on the bus. When they got to Birmingham, Connor separated the SNCC group from other passengers and arranged to put them in 3 different cars. It was late at night. Lewis and one other student rode with Bull Connor. Connor was most gracious and pleasant, saying that when they all got to Nashville, he would join them for coffee. Then right at the state border between Alabama and Tennessee, Connor ordered the cars to pull over, and he put the students out on the road late at night in the middle of nowhere. They were all sure that the Klan would arrive and attack. But Lewis knew that all around there would be small cabins where Black families lived and farmed, and shortly he found one such cabin. The cabin's residents opened their door and took in the kids, and best of all, they had a phone. So Lewis could call one of his allies in Nashville, the great Diane Nash, who agreed to drive out to meet them and take them back to Birmingham. The very next night, Lewis and others were back on the bus, riding again to Nashville. Yes, John Lewis walked into trouble. He had to. It was his mission, even though it was dangerous. Looking at a photo years later of him leading the jail after that first lunch counter arrest, Lewis said this: "I never had that much dignity before. It was exhilarating. It was something I had earned, and the sense of the independence that comes from being a free person." Sister Simone Campbell is very different from Congressman John Lewis. As a youngster growing up in a lower middle class family in Southern California, she learned early on that she could organize her friends and classmates to get things done to improve the lot of her class. And Sister Simone's work may be more analogous to our own, since she works to improve the lives and conditions for others rather than for herself and her direct family. She chose to get involved with social justice. She says we are pushed forward by our own moral code, our own learning about injustice, rather than by our own personal humiliations and threats. Nevertheless, Sister Simone fully recognizes that we will be afraid to walk to trouble, that doing so represents challenge and change. Our mission, she says, is to bear one another's suffering, to work together for justice, and to build a wider community that can eventually include every one of us. Sister Simone is a member of a progressive order of nuns called the Sisters of Social Service. Apparently, when you join, you choose a new name. Campbell was born Mary Campbell, but she thought about what name to choose. She decided to follow Jesus's apostle Peter, also called Simon Peter, because he can be seen in the Gospels to be essentially good, but not obedient, not following established procedures. Campbell thought that was a good description of her, so she feminized the name Simon and became Simone Campbell. Sister Simone is not at all confined to national boundaries. She's well known for leading the Nuns on the Bus tour in 2013 to promote immigration reform. But in her book, she includes the story of a homeless shelter for migrants in Beirut. Thousands of migrants came from all over the world to Beirut to find jobs, but their shelter is a closed-in space under the highway with no sunlight, and with the air intake going up on the highway median strip. She went into these camps and learned about the people there, what they hoped for and what they needed. Now she spends most of her time as the director of a social justice nonprofit called Network, and she works on American policy issues, social justice issues of many kinds. Ted was privileged, and I was there as well, to hear Sister Simone's 2014 Ware lecture at the Unitarian Universalist General Assembly, and you can still find that talk if you go to uua.org. It's a beautiful presentation. Along with telling some of her own stories in this lecture, Sister Simone focuses on her determination to walk towards trouble. She describes her spirituality as walking willing, and that walking is towards a challenge. She says we should dare to try to reach for something new and to include everyone in your efforts, because if someone is left out, then we lose a key voice in building community. For her, walking into trouble is walking into community. Hope is generated in community. Let our hearts be broken by what we learn, she says, but it's necessary to hear everyone's story. Even Senator Mitch McConnell's story, she says. 100% participation must be the goal of community building. She urges us to talk with new friends and even strangers about their values and what's important to them. We're in this together, Sister Simone insists, and we should walk into trouble together. Ted concludes, these stories and lessons come together, I think. W.E.B. Du Bois urged his Black brothers and sisters to take a chance, to dare to get involved. And certainly John Lewis and Sister Simone have taken that lesson to heart. So let it be a lesson to us as well. Not to sit on the sidelines in this important election season and expect that the folks you hope to win will in fact prevail. No, Ted says, we need to do what we can, make even a small contribution to support our preferred candidates and programs in this campaign season. May it be so.
I bring you a couple of stories from Philadelphia. The organization I've been engaged with is called Changing the Conversation Together. It has the initials CTC. And they do what they call deep canvassing, which is having conversations at the door with people, talking about someone that they love, and that they bring that love with them when they go to the voting polls. One of the challenges, however, is that a majority of the people who are doing this voter canvassing are people like me, mostly white, and most of the area that they're working in Philadelphia are people of color. And some of the leaders began to realize that there were opportunities that we were falling into of being racially inappropriate. And so some of us decided we really needed to do some training. And we tried to learn and to train others about intentional, I've got to look this up because I can't remember the name. When you are intentionally or consciously being biased, or when you are unintentionally, unconsciously being biased. And for me, I learned a new term of, I didn't want to make this very long because the service is going on, microaggressions. And so I want to tell you one quick story of someone's memory of a microaggression, because as we go out with love in our hearts to make a difference in this world, one of the things that I feel strongly I need to learn is not to be stepping on other people's toes. So this is not me, but another person. I know I have unintentionally acted disrespectfully when I've been overwhelmed. I remember it being really sunny and windy and trying to reorganize my clipboard, and the papers kept flying away. So I wanted to stop somewhere so I could figure things out. And I found myself using a car parked on the street to lean on and shield myself from the wind while I organized everything. I've leaned against trees in people's yards. In retrospect, it's so obvious that I wasn't aware of disrespecting my surroundings, and people in the neighborhood might rightfully view it as microaggression by me exhibiting an entitlement to their space and to their personal property. I think about how I would feel if I saw that in my neighborhood, or with my car, or in my yard.
So I'm probably not telling you guys anything when you know democracy is a core value for us as Unitarian Universalists, right? Don't worry, this is not going to be a longer homily. I appreciate that this has gotten a little longer. I hope it's been rewarding for all of you. What I'm going to talk about is just a couple of organizations and ways to get involved to help get at the vote. And I'm going to talk about just nonpartisan organizations. I'm going to talk about 3 of them. You also have an insert in your order of service, which has links to the different organizations I'm going to talk to you about briefly. And also, it is also online on the website. If you go to the racial justice page, you click the menu, justice, racial justice, there's a big box up there. You can click through and get all the information that is in your handout and a couple more links that I added. All right, so let's jump in. UU the Vote, which maybe some of you have heard of. Ted gave a talk last week, actually after the service, about it. It's an initiative created by Unitarian Universalist Association, the Side with Love team. And what it is, it just gives you a bunch of opportunities to kind of, they say plug and play. You can kind of do what you want and engage or disengage as you would like. It is a year-round effort. It's not just an election year effort. And I'm just going to talk about some of the ways you can participate. They have a great listing of events on the page, which I would encourage you to read. For example, this Tuesday night, there's a phone call bank to reach voters in PA. There's, I think, phone banks every Tuesday, probably up until election time. So that's one of the things you can look at. In addition to phone banks, there are also text banks, which I'm kind of intrigued by. I guess same concept as phone banks, but text messaging. So I am going to look into that as well. Another way is postcard or letter writing campaigns, which is basically writing personalized messages and encouraging people to vote. We're going to have an opportunity for that right after the service, actually. Another opportunity is you can become a poll worker or a nonpartisan observer, an election defender. And lastly, you can also look to become a Good Trouble congregation. I think you heard Good Trouble a couple of times in some of the other readings and reflections and homilies. I won't get really into that. To basically achieve Good Trouble congregation status, you have to do some things. One of them is like voter contact, like 20 calls, door knocks, postcards per member. Don't worry about that. It's something we can look into a little bit. Next, I want to talk about Vote Forward, and that's the opportunity we're going to have afterwards is a vote through Vote Forward. So that is exclusively letter writing. They're focused on letter writing and mobilizing eligible but infrequent voters, basically telling people, hey, your vote is important, please go and vote. We'll have more on that after the service. And then there's Change the Conversation, which is what Carol Haig referred to. Very UU-spirited organization, I feel like. They do. They framed it on their website that voting is a way to take care of the people we love. I kind of like that. And their approach is on deep canvassing, as she mentioned, centering love through these long-form conversations that they have to talk to people about their experiences. And it's been very successful at voter turnout and motivation. And I do just want to mention, there was a very interesting thing I read on the website. I just want to give you an appreciation for how getting people to vote can really influence things. So this conversation for change is involved in West Philadelphia is one of the areas they're looking at. And last year, in the wards that they work in, there's 130,000 registered voters who did not vote in 2020. Just to give you a sense, that amount, 130,000, is larger than the Pennsylvania state margins of victory in the 2016 and 2020 elections. So, I mean, that says a lot there in terms of how important it is. So hopefully we've given you some ideas how to get involved. Again, the handout, and if you can't find the link on the website, you can email either Ted or I. We're at racialjustice@uuprinceton.org. Also, if you just go to Racial Justice Ministry page. So after we're done service, there's going to be a letter writing opportunity right there in Robinson. Take 5 minutes, 10 minutes if you can. Carol Watchler has brought in around 100, I'm going to call them postcards, I know they're letters, but postcards, right there, Kara Watchler, addressed to voters in Pennsylvania. So there's 3 ways you can participate. You can fill out the letter right here to encourage your voter to vote. You can take home, she has some information, and print out your own letters to write and mail between October 1st and 25th. Lastly, you can make a donation for postage as well, because we have to put postage on these to mail them. Also, Deborah Lambo, are you in here, Deborah? Can you stand up? Yes, she's there. She is also going to have a sign-up sheet to do writing of letters, one maybe at your house or maybe here? Okay. Looking at October 6th, definitely, and possibly in September. So definitely October 6th after the service here, there'll be an opportunity, but she has a sign-up sheet. So see her as well. So in closing, let's all commit to building a truly inclusive democracy. Let's create positive change, not just today, but for generations to come. Let's vote, advocate, and build a better world. Thank you.
We will extinguish our flame, carrying the light we have kindled with us until we are together again. Democracy's Benediction by Lucas Hergart. We are democracy, unruly, unfinished, unrelenting, the pleasure of activism organized into simple hope. Democracy, today we will love you alive, make you ours, make you thrive, and vote as though our hope is on the line. Go in peace and unrest, and always with abiding love. Amen, and blessed be.